control it, but it's very interactive. I know you know how to use it, Sue.
Yeah.
But after we're done, if you don't have an account in Nearpod, you can make an account, and then we can share this with you, and it'll be yours to keep. We can't put it on like Google because it's teacher-led, so you got to become an editor. So, well, if you are excited about that. So curriculum design, really, just to start out, it's kind of a common. Okay, so all three of our professional developments, balance assessment, and unpacking the standards and curriculum design all overlap. We all talk about each other's topics within it. So we're going to probably say some things that have already been said, maybe just in a different way, because they overlap so much. So curriculum design, everyone is here. So just to begin, you're going to answer, as you can see all the names are up there. So right now on your screen, you should be able to type in the answer to the question. What has the curriculum development process look like for you? And what are your thoughts about the process itself?
And as you turn these in, we'll be able to see your answers. So if you look at your computer right now and consider answering these questions, we'll be able to see.
It will come up there answered, and it will say thank you on your phone.
Christy says it's a lot of work. It's ongoing and constantly updated. Thanks, Christy.
I was just repeating what our teachers say.
Don't do that. That's good. Yeah. that shows up on ours.
Oh.
Yeah, mine says thank you now.
So does mine.
I messed up. That was my fault.
So when you're doing this with your class,
Don't click
if you
share.
click on a share, what happens is we see it, we shoot it to you or your screen, so because we control it, so you get to see what we see. We get to show you what we want you to see. So you have to wait until everybody's answered before you share anything, or it cancels you out of your little typing.
Sorry.
So,
So
anyways,
first time
so
I'm
Laura
using
got
this.
to respond before we exited out of that, and she said it's difficult and not systematic, ongoing. All right. So curriculum design, what it is. Gotta open this up. So I had this open up on
You
my.
can put a Google presentation within. That's cool.
So Google, so you should be seeing this on your screen, but where we have it up here as well. Curriculum design principles, can you see it? Yeah?
It says click here to open one.
Yep. And the other thing is I can show it this way as well. So if I wasn't presenting it on a screen, you would be able to see it on your own. But since we're presenting it together, we'll just go this way. So what is curriculum design? It provides a guaranteed and viable universal curriculum to meet the needs of all students. It's based on standards articulated by the State Education Department, and it is flexible in design that is appropriate or universal for all learners. Just a little bit. Principles of curriculum design. When you're thinking about designing your curriculum, and you have science, math, all the curriculums, you have about 5 different areas that you really take attention to. You align it, you have scope and sequence, continuity, and integration. And then there's, from once you get that kind of aligned, you go into the models. There's 3 different models of curriculum design. And there's actually a lot of models, but I kind of summarize them into 3 basic headings. Subject and discipline centered, which you see a lot of like in college and high school, your singletons. Learner centered, which tends to be very elementary, and middle is kind of in between. Very child centered, look at the child itself. And then our inquiry or problem-based center, where everything is centered around a problem, and it can be a real-life problem. It can be something that you want them, a social issue you want them to look into, but all the curriculum revolves around a problem or inquiry-based idea. So that's kind of curriculum design in a nutshell. So I want you to look at this picture. This is actually a picture of Lake Delton in Wisconsin Dells when we had the 100-year flood. And you see these houses, beautiful houses, and there's the water. And now you need to, on your screens, you'll have this to respond. Why did the house slide into the water? Mike's answer? Some kids put no idea. IDK.
Foundational issues, not supported correctly, erosion, house slid into the water due to erosion of the land. Water eroded the foundation, the house fell into the lake. Weak foundations, a lot of undercurrents. It was raining a lot. Foundation came out from underneath. The builders didn't have the vision or foresight of what could happen in the future. A.C. Slater, all right. Poor planning didn't put the house back far enough from the river, and too much rain caused a flood.
Did you say like you can control what we see up there? So if
Well,
somebody,
no. So you'll see all of that. But what will happen now if everybody's answered?
And
Now
I
you
have
share?
a correct answer. Okay, like I don't know.
Just say it, like you'll see, because that will come up, and you'll see people that write naughty things up
That's
there
what I
too.
was saying,
Yeah,
like-
we have that conversation about being a person of a citizen of digital learning and how you need to act in that. We do have those conversations.
So we have 100% participation and wonderful answers.
So then you could, if you just click back, so just to show them what happens. So if she did she share it?
Yes.
Then on your screen, you should see a different thing, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. And she could share all of them individually, so then you can see what everyone says. Okay. There you go.
So curriculum design is much like the picture. You have to have a quality design, and that would be what we would call the curriculum. And it's essential also to have a solid foundation. So that's kind of the way you're going to execute your design is through your instruction.
So,
And we want to ask you guys, has there ever been a time in your life as a teacher, as an educational professional, when you felt like the house sliding into the water?
so this is a poll, so you're just gonna go yes, no, or no answer.
Yes, no, no answer. Looks like a couple people said yes so far.
We didn't have a C option.
Yeah, we didn't have C options.
Oh, you didn't
Well,
have
it looks
C?
like everybody's felt like the house sliding into the water at one point or another, where you get to your classroom and maybe you don't. I remember my first year, I walked into the classroom, I'm like, is there curriculum? They're like, well, there's a syllabus from the old teacher. So I felt like everything I did my first year had no foundation and didn't lead to anything else, right? I did the absolute opposite of what a person with a solid curriculum design should do. And it doesn't feel good. You want to have a solid foundation. You want to know where you're headed before you start trying to go there.
And your screen right now will show, actually, because everybody answered A, will show a solid pie, because I shared it with you.
So the big question is, how do we know which targets we are assessing as we're designing and later moving through our curriculum? We want to know what our targets are, what the end point is, before we ever step in front of our students. That's the idea. And really the main thing is to start with the standards, okay? You start with the standards. You, as a teacher, they can be state or national depending on your district. Wisconsin is locally, I think we locally decide. We have the chance to. And then we choose the standards that you're responsible for covering in your class. So you get together with your team of science teachers, for instance, and you go, okay, how are we splitting these standards up? How are we going to guarantee that we're going to cover all the standards? And which standards am I responsible for the class or the grade level that I am responsible for? And then you decide, of your, let's say, 15, 16 standards that you have decided you are covering in your class for a given subject, you go back through those standards and you go, okay, which of these standards is absolutely drop dead essential? Like, which of these standards should my kids leave the class knowing how to do? And which ones am I going to teach but are more incidental? They're good to know. You teach all the standards, but we put the emphasis on the ones that we know are, and we can go to the next one, either have endurance, so they're going to be something that kids are going to be able to use in the outside world. They're going to have leverage. They're going to be able to use the knowledge gained from the standard or the understanding in multiple classrooms or different disciplines, or it's readiness for the next level. okay? You wanna make sure that your kids are ready for the next grade level coming. And you should be able to assess the standard. Most standards we can, but that's also very important. And you continue by unpacking the standards. So we've seen 2 different ways to do this. It's the same thing. You are circling the verbs, you're underlining the nouns, okay? And then you're kind of peeling it apart into knowledge targets, into reasoning targets, into performance targets, and into product targets. So you're just kind of peeling that standard apart, you're getting to kind of the root. What does it mean? So just as an example, this is a next generation science standard for high school earth and space science. Let's pretend that I decided as a teacher that this was one of the essentials. My kids had to leave my class knowing how to develop a model based on evidence to illustrate the lifespan of the sun and the role of nuclear fusion, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So if I was starting to peel that apart, I would first circle the verbs. They have to develop, okay? They're developing a model to illustrate a process. Knowledge, they have to know about the lifespan of the sun. They would have to know that going in. I'd have to make sure I covered that in my instruction. They also need to know about the role of nuclear fusion in the sun's core to release energy that eventually reaches the earth in the form of radiation. Again, my kids would need to know that in order to develop a model that illustrated that process. They would be reasoning through, and these are kind of where you kind of get to those essential questions, I think. How can I portray the lifespan of the sun in model? What would that look like? The sun is gigantic. How am I going to scale it down a little bit? What is the role of nuclear fusion in the sun's core? I want to know that. How does nuclear fusion release energy that eventually reaches the earth in the form of radiation? How does radiation affect the earth, humans, environment? And what's the difference between this radiation and other kinds of radiation, like from nuclear power plants? So these are just like brainstorming ideas. I know very little about this, but these would be the questions that I would ask if I was kind of going through a learning process. Performance targets. You definitely, this is where you kind of peel the verbs out. You want kids to be able to develop a model based on evidence, and you want kids to be able to illustrate the lifespan of the sun and the roll up. I won't say it again. Okay. And then product. What do kids have to produce to show that they've kind of achieved that standard? They have to create a model based on evidence to illustrate a process. Now, if we go to the next one, the essential learning outcome, okay, from that standard might be, if I'm the teacher and I'm wanting to just boil it down to the absolutely drop dead non-negotiable essential. This is what my kids will walk away with. I want my students all to be able to develop a model based on evidence to illustrate a process. Okay? That's my end game. That's where I want my kids to end up. Okay, and if we're using backwards design and the targets, we're going to create the instruction that's going to get our kids to be able to develop a model based on evidence to illustrate a process. Does that make sense?
So a way to design curriculum is backwards design.
Imagine this. A group of friends decide to organise a day out. Katie is excited because she thinks a day at a folk festival would be perfect. Sam is excited because he sees everyone heading out of town for a long, peaceful bushwalk. And Sue is excited because she imagines the group visiting the snowfields and having their first ever ski lesson. The group arranges a meeting time, a place, then get busy with their own lives. On the appointed day, the 3 friends meet, pile into the car and set off. As time passes, Sam becomes grumpy because the group keeps driving past all of the exits to the best bushwalks. He wonders why he has his hiking boots on. A bit later, Sue becomes grumpy because Katie has turned off the highway away from the snowfields, and Sue is regretting putting her thermals on this morning. She wonders why she has been working so hard on her quads at the gym. An hour later, Katie pulls the car over and lets her friends know that she is lost. By the end of the day, none of the friends have achieved their goal. What if the 3 friends approach their day out differently? Katie, Sam and Sue get together to chat about what they would like to do. They decide on a common outcome for the day, Plan what each will need to do to get ready and what the group will do together to make sure the day out is a big success. As the weeks go past, the group talks